going to start with a little bit of a statistic for you. So, did you know in 1930, one's chances of getting cancer in this country were 1 in 30? Today, 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women will develop cancer in their lifetime. It is estimated that by 2030, the rates will be 1 in 1, meaning all of us will have 1 or more cancers in our lifetime. Cancer is becoming as common as tornadoes in Kansas. And Ginny, my guest today, believes it's time we need to wake up, face the reality, and develop a plan of prevention. Ginny Dent Brant is a speaker and a writer who grew up in the halls of power in Washington, D.C. She has battled cancer, ministered around the world, and served on the front lines of American culture as a counselor, educator, wellness advocate, and adjunct professor. She has 2 masters from the University of South Carolina in elementary counseling and in education and research. She received her undergraduate degree from Columbia International University in biblical education. Ginny's award-winning book, Finding True Freedom, From the White House to the World, was featured in many media interviews nationwide, and her recent book, Unleash Your God-Given Healing, 8 Steps to Prevent and Survive Cancer, has won 5 awards. Ginny currently mentors pastors, ministry leaders, missionaries, doctors, scientists, and other cancer patients through the journey with lifestyle changes. So I can't wait to talk all about it. So will you please welcome my guest to the show, Ginny Dent Brant. Hi, Ginny.
Hello. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Debbie.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you. You really are a leader in this and such an inspiration in this realm of this horrible, horrible thing that has touched every single person's life. There's nobody, I think, that can say, I don't know somebody or a loved one that has been touched by cancer. And you really, writing this book and bringing it to the forefront has, I think, the opportunity and has given so many people the opportunity to educate themselves, to be preventative, and to perhaps work through whatever they may be going through in any illness, because all of this protocol that you have pertains to any illness, I think. And
absolutely, it does.
And I want to go through that, but I want to learn all about you first. Have you tell the audience a little bit, and we're going to start from, because we hear the accent, so where you're from, what your young years were like, and what got you into what you're doing today? Because, I alluded to a little bit of it in the introduction. So tell us about yourself.
Okay. I am a South Carolina girl. And I did grow up in Washington, D.C. because my father served as senator and 3 different presidents. So I kind of have a unique view of the world because of that. I spent my life in the educational system working with children. I love working with children and helping them to develop their potential and trying to remove anything that keeps them from developing their potential. And I was known as a health and wellness advocate before I was diagnosed with cancer. So the cancer diagnosis was a complete shock to me, but it made me delve even further into what caused my cancer and what I could do to help my doctors to beat it and prevent it from coming back.
So how long ago was this that you got this
2015,
diagnosis?
I was diagnosed.
Okay.
With cancer about this time.
Okay. And what was I going to ask you? So, and at that point, you had already, up to that point, been living a lifestyle, like you said, of health and wellness. You had already...
Well, I considered myself a health nut. And most people would tell you, because I rewrote the curriculum for the school district on health and wellness to teach it to children. And I revamped was on the committee that revamped the school lunch program. But I had so much more to learn. I was just skimming the surface. And because I was eating healthier than the average American, I thought I was one of the good guys that had it all together. And my research would show me that I had a lot more to learn.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable, isn't it? I was also on the committee of my kids' school to revamp the lunches, and we were instrumental, and we were the pilot program for putting salad bars in the schools, and then it opened up to the entire district, and it's been there now for 15 years or so. And we also put a garden in at the school where my kids went to elementary school. It was a program, a state program called Gardening Angels, and I was just raised my hand and stepped up front and center. I thought that if you can get a young child to be educated and to love fruits and vegetables and really understand where food comes from and love it from the get-go and get their hands dirty, literally, then you've got a great jump start for them on the healthy, longevity swing, I think.
I think so too.
So that's really cool that you did that.
It's important for them to know from the get-go that these foods were made for their healing. And really, the more of these plants that you eat and grow yourself without all the chemicals, the better off you're going to be.
Right. And giving them just the fun part of it. I mean, when the kids would be like, putting the seeds in, and then 2 weeks later in the watering, time, they saw them sprout. And then, depending on the type of vegetable it was, maybe 3 weeks later, it was ready for harvest. And then we would make a salad and make our own homemade salad dressings. And, we would get like a healthy flatbread and make like a little pizza with all the vegetables on it. And they just thought that was the best thing in the world. And, I know for my kids, it maintained throughout their adult lives because we took it home too. And our hope was you give the kids a little bit of education so they make those suggestions to their parents as well. And granted, I live in California, so we do have, we're supposed to be the sunshine state, and it's a little bit easier to have gardens all year round out here, and we are sort of known to be health gurus, but it's not necessarily the case across the state. And like you said, most people think they might be eating healthy and living a healthy lifestyle, but until they really, really educate themselves, they're not. So can we go back to 2015 and hear your story? How did you discover cancer, and then what was the journey for you like?
Actually, I discovered it after I did the Cooper River Bridge run in Charleston. It's a 10-kilometer run that you can walk or do a combination of walking and running. And at that time, my husband and I were walking and running it. We never totally ran it. And that night, in the middle of the night, my ring got caught in my nightie.
Ooh.
And when it did, in the middle of the night, I was trying to free it. I felt a lump. Well, I went immediately back to bed because I was tired and thought it was just a dream. And the next morning I woke up and, oh dear, that lump was there. So my mother had just died of breast cancer 4 months earlier. And so I certainly wasn't going to fool around, but I went on my way home because I was out of town to my doctor, and she immediately set me up for a mammogram and with a radiologist. And when he told me that it was not a fluid-filled cyst, I had had those false alarms before. I was like, really? It's a real tumor? And he goes, it's a real tumor. We have to do a biopsy, to find out. So the first bad news came when the biopsy came back and they said it's cancer. Then the next week, the nurse called me at school and said, it's not just cancer, it is aggressive cancer. And then I went for the MRI to stage the surgery. And I went in to meet with the surgeon to set everything up. And he said, Miss Brant, it's worse than we thought. I said, what do you mean? He said, it looks like it spread into your lymph system and in different places in your body. We're looking at a stage 4 aggressive cancer.
Oh, no.
And we are going to do our best to keep you alive a few years with treatments, but we cannot cure this. And we can only extend your life a few years. And I'm like, what? Well, the first thing I did was, my husband looks at me and goes, we're getting a second opinion. And we flew to Cancer Treatment Centers of America in Chicago immediately. And they looked at all the scans and all the results. And within 5 days, they were able to sit down with me, 2 radiologists, 2 surgeons, and tell me their opinion of my situation. And they said, we don't know that it's stage 4. What we're seeing on these scans is a terrible inflammation so bad from your biopsy, it could have taken you out. So that what they saw on the scans was inflammation. They said they wouldn't know how far the cancer had gone until they did the surgery. And I decided to get treatment there because they gave me a holistic naturopathic doctor, a nutritionist on my case. They brought acupuncture in. They were bringing the whole package, and it was worth flying up there for the treatment that I got.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you became your own advocate. There's the first, message. Amen. And the first thing that we need to tell people is that you have to advocate for yourself. Second opinion, even if it's not something that sounds that bad to you on the first opinion, you need to get a second opinion, and then you need to educate yourself and be informed to make your own informed decision. I'm so glad. And then you have to be your advocate all the way through, because there is a certain protocol or a certain formula that doctors, Western medicine doctors use it's almost like a one size fits all, and it's never that. It's never that. Everybody's so individual, and you need the holistic approach not only gets to the root of the problem, but they also work with you and what you're dealing with from the inside out and the outside in. And so glad you did that. So glad that you had the wherewithal to do that, because that
I am too. And you will love this because you're a fitness coach. When I got through the first surgery, lots of stitches. Okay. I had about 100 stitches and got back to my room, and I had more tubes coming out of my body than I knew what to do with. And I looked at the nurse and I said, what can I do to shed some of these tubes? And he said, if you can walk 4 rounds of the hospital floor by tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., I will remove at least the catheter. And I said, great, please remove it. So the next morning I got up, walked 4 rounds of the hospital floor. Debbie, it felt so good. I said, how many to a mile? He said, oh, I don't think you can do that, but it would be 18. I said, okay. I kept going. Now I'm pulling my poles and all these tubes and medical apparatus behind me, right?
Which is adding
and so
to
I'm walking around and around. And then I got to 1 mile and the nurses are cheering me on. And I said, I think I'm going to go a second mile. And then he goes, okay, but let me go call your surgeon. I'm not sure if she wants you going that far. Called my surgeon, and she said, if she has the energy and the balance, let her go. It's only going to promote healing.
That's a testament to what exercise can do for you.
Amen.
It gets everything moving because it gets your systems activated. You're going to get rid of a lot of toxins, and anything that in your body is going to start responding to that.
Yes, the anesthesia
absolutely.
Jumpstart the organs.
Yes.
Well, the surprise was when my surgeon came back around that afternoon, she said, I'm not only letting you go home today, just one night after surgery. She said, these tubes you were supposed to go home and babysit for a few weeks after a breast cancer surgery, I'm pulling them today. Your body's already taken care of it.
Wow. That's good. And
so I tell people, as long as your doctor has not told you not to, we don't go up against the doctors, right? But sometimes they'll tell you not to move because you are operating on a part of your body that's weight bearing and they want the swelling to subside. And so they tell you to wait. You listen to your doctor's instructions. They weren't telling me to wait. And so I kept moving. And then I decided, well, this works so well for this. I don't want this chemotherapy. So I decided I would walk 2 miles before and after each chemotherapy if I could. Well, the 2 miles before wasn't hard. Went in for 8 hours of chemotherapy the first time. My husband said, I'm not sure you'll be able to do this at the end. I got up and walked 2 miles back to my hotel room from the infusion center. And then 2 miles in the morning and 2 miles in the afternoon, every day in between. Only to find out after I complete the cancer journey, several years later, my doctors went back to that and said, look at the new research in Australia. Then followed by new research a few years ago at MD Anderson about what exercise does for the cancer patient. It's the best pill a cancer patient could take is to exercise.
It's so true what exercise can do for you. That coupled with your diet and other things, your rest and all of that. But you're living proof, literally living proof what it can do for you. So, using all of those strategies, and I take it that you revamped your diet a little bit to meet the needs
Oh,
of.
absolutely. We were up to 4 or 5 fruits and vegetables a day, my husband and I, because of my dad's Alzheimer's and things I was learning. And then I realized, well, that's not enough. I need like 10 to 13 of these plants a day. So we gradually, and now we're up to the 10 to 13. And it makes a huge difference. And again, no one's talked about this until recently in the cancer world, but MD Anderson did a study. One of their oncologists was involved, and they gave people gradually up to 50 grams of fiber from all these plants and grains and things, and 6 probiotic foods a day during chemotherapy and immunotherapy, and the results were clear. They were going to fare better with chemotherapy, and the immunotherapy was enhanced.
I bet. Those cruciferous vegetables, those are the probiotic vegetables, really good for you.
All those things.
Fermented
you got the prebiotics and the probiotics,
ferments,
and you put it all together. And in the chemotherapy journey, when chemo is pulled out, your gut is going to be destroyed in order to kill the cancer. And your gut is where 70 to 80% of your immune cells lie. And so my naturopathic doctor was giving me L-glutamine powder after chemotherapy to help protect my gut. And it helped, but it was still going to get partially destroyed. When it was all over, I totally rebuilt my gut with nourishing foods. And I've kept that same diet today. I don't do the 6 probiotic foods. I do 3 probiotics a day. And I do eat a large amount of plants, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, including flax seeds. And so, I've just gone from not knowing very much to knowing a whole lot more about how my body works and what makes it work the way God intended it to work. Because, it says in Genesis 1:29, when you look at the Bible, God says, I've created this food for you. And then years later, scientists can tell you every phytochemical, every antioxidant that's in each plant. And all the plants have cancer fighting power. But as you mentioned, the cruciferous vegetables are high, probably some of the most beneficial for a cancer patient, especially someone with estrogen-fed breast cancer. And then you've got blueberries, onions, garlic. You've got all these things that have natural cancer fighting power. I did an article on my blog. I do have a cancer prevention blog, and I did the top 10 cancer kicking foods. And I now eat some of those foods every single day.
And that's the beauty of educating yourself. And then you write this amazing book so you can go ahead and educate others as well. I want to get into the book and into what you learned, because I'm sure you talk about that. There it is up on the screen for those that are watching us. You talk about, what worked for you, but there are some universal things that we know, phytochemicals, plants, anything that God created for us is good for us to eat for the most part, that we should be learning what our individual bodies will actually thrive from. And biggest problem and why these statistics are the way they are that I read at the top of the show, which came from you and your media kit, but those statistics are based on what's happened because we've become a processed nation. I call myself a processed kid because I lived on fast food and I lived on anything that came in a package, and it wasn't 100% whole, nutritious food. And everything that's been added for flavor and all the pesticides and environmental stuff that's come together that's on and in our food has wreaked havoc, which is the reason why those statistics have changed. And I was listening to a podcast earlier, the Primal Food podcast, and they had a cancer doctor on there, and she was saying that we're going to be at 100%. We're going to be, and it's not going to be like 1 in 5, and we're going to be one-on-one. Everybody will have some form of
common
some
thing in
cancer.
this culture.
Yes, and we're not that far away. And she's saying that she's seen much younger kids, 25-year-olds and young kids coming in with cancer now because our food is so tainted, our environment is so lethal that, it's just wreaking havoc on their bodies and causing other diseases, any kind of inflammation that causes an autoimmune disease and heart disease, all kinds of things that she said it's gotten worse and worse and worse over the years. I would love to talk about your book. And your book is Unleash Your God-Given Healing. And you talk about the steps to survive and prevent cancer. So first let's talk about what prompted you to write this book.
Well, I have to be honest with you, Debbie, it was the book I never wanted to write. And when the chaplain at the hospital, I went to pour out my heart to him because there were 8 risk factors for the cancer I got. I didn't have one of the risk factors. So they did extensive genetic testing, and that showed nothing either. So I had nothing to rest my hat on to say, this is why I got cancer. And that's what motivated me to research. But the chaplain said, Ginny, just consider this a gift from God for you to help other people. And I looked at him and I said, I don't want the gift, right? Who would want this gift? And then the more I learned and the more I researched, I realized most people do not know these things I'm uncovering. And so that's when I was motivated to write the book, because I don't want anyone, first of all, to get cancer in the first place. This is something we want to avoid. And then for those people like me that have to go through the journey with all the toxic, difficult treatments, these same 8 steps help you to do better as you go through the treatments and also prevent the cancer from coming back. So what you do to prevent cancer is the same thing you do to get through the journey and the same thing you do to prevent it from coming back. So I was at that point motivated, and at that point, nothing could stop me.
You have to make your mess your message, right? And so
Right.
that was your push to have to do that. So these 8 steps obviously worked for you. Are you in remission? You're cancer free, I take it?
Yes,
Oh,
I am.
that's fabulous.
8 years out.
Congratulations. Bravo. That's so cool. I think I read somewhere that your initial diagnosis from your first doctor was 2 years, but you've since been around for 3 more grandchildren. So that's fabulous.
Right. And that doctor happened to be wrong. He made an honest mistake, but he was wrong. I was not stage 4. Did I have to have all the treatments? Yes, I did, because it was aggressive cancer. And so this idea of going au naturel with a mild, beginning stage cancer was out the door. Unfortunately, I had to embrace all these treatments I didn't want to embrace. But I did figure out how to get through them and minimize the side effects. And so that's, again, what the 8 steps are about. They're not just for someone going through the cancer journey, but it's critical for them. These same 8 steps prevent cancer in the first place. But if you're in the cancer journey and you've got all these treatments, the first step in the book is clearly hydrate properly. And if you're going through
Hallelujah. I swear that's the number one thing.
Yes.
I had a friend who was a cancer researcher at labs through UCLA, actually, and he said the number one catalyst for disease itself, especially cancer, is dehydration. The number one thing.
And for heart problems and for dementia and Alzheimer's.
All diseases. Yeah. Disease. It's just
it's the first in my book because it is so important, and that hydration affects every cell, every organ, and every organ system in your body, including your immune system. So it's just so important. But again, my nutritionist told me to increase hydration 2 days before chemo, the day of. All day long, 8 hours of chemo. I'm drinking water bottles, every 30 minutes on the hour,
To flush out all of the chemicals.
And it gets the chemo to every cell. That's important. But it helped to minimize the side effects. Mm-hmm. And so, daily hydration, I literally have it measured out. Here we go. This is 32 ounces right here. and it's measured out so that I know that I'm
Cheers.
doing, yeah, here we go. It's just a part of life now. I start out every day with 2 glasses of water, and then
Me
I
too.
space the rest out during the day, not as much during meals, not too much close to bedtime. But the point is, what you drink is important. And when you eat a lot of these plants and fruits and vegetables, a lot of them enhance hydration.
They do. They do. They do.
So
Yeah, half your
hydration
body
is
weight in ounces, correct? Half your
That's
body
right.
weight in ounces. That's what I
But
tell
if you're
all of
going through
my
chemo, you're
students.
going to add to that. You're going to increase
I
hydration if you're
agree.
going through chemo or if you're going through COVID or the flu, because your body is
Need to
under stress
flush.
and you want to increase hydration.
Yes. And same, I tell athletes to do that too, like extreme athletes. Like I teach spin classes. And we do high intensity training for 50 straight minutes, 50. And so we're, not do like just walking. I always say break a sweat every day if you can, but the kind of sweating we're doing, I also do hot Bikram type yoga. And I'm just dripping. I mean, my clothes are, you might as well have thrown them in the ocean. They're that wet. And so we have to increase our hydration when we do that. So I drink, this is 32 ounces and I drink 3 of these a day. And I always start with a glass or 2, like 8 to 16 ounces of water before any kind of beverage or food or any even activity that is before anything I get out of bed because I have the water right by my bed. And then I make sure that I get that I measure it out and make sure that I get this, especially on those days that I take those hot classes or that I teach or take a high intensity interval type class. I work out, do some sort of form of workout every day. But it's really important, and I don't need this much because I only weigh 110 pounds, but I still, which would mean 52 ounces basically. And I am getting much more than that, but, without overdoing. So I make sure I stay hydrated. And I just really, that's a big deal for me to tell my clients and friends and family and students, because I think it's the number
one
one.
cancer center is recommending to their cancer patients for prevention, after they've been treated, to drink a gallon of water a day, even if they are low in weight like you are. This just does so much for your body. But then again, you don't want to go too far.
Yeah, because then you can
do that. It's hard to pass by a bathroom because you're drinking so much. But water is key, and it's free. You filter it. It really, once you filter it, it doesn't cost you anything. So this is something everyone can do. The first 4 steps in my book are something anyone, well, 3 or 4 of the steps are something anyone can do without costing any money. And I think that's important. And 5 of the steps in my book, I already knew something about, but I took a deeper dive on them. And there were 3 steps in my book that I just literally didn't know anything about and totally missed the boat on. So,
well, so good
that a lot to learn.
So good that you did the work for everybody else. So what's step 2? Let's go to step 2 then.
Well, step 2, we talked about exercise, and so I've already hit on that, but it enhances every organ system and organ in your body, and ups your T cells. The best thing someone could have done during COVID is not to be sedentary and eat potato chips all day long, and it's to get out and walk, maybe stay away from people, but get out and walk every day. And that's what my husband and I did, even when we were quarantined or in the lockdown or whatever you want to call it. So exercise is key. Deep sleep is another step, because in deep sleep, well, while we're doing this interview, both of our bodies are performing miracles without us thinking about it. That's the way the body was designed to work. But when you engage in deep sleep at night, those miracles go up exponentially. And that hormone called melatonin goes off in your body, and it's a major immune builder and cancer fighter. So the best thing you can do to prevent cancer is to make sure that you are getting regular deep sleep on a regular basis. And if you're in the cancer journey, you want to make sleep a priority.
And that's like 7 to 9 hours is my recommendation for people, because you can get to the other side where you're sleeping too much and your body will, Of course, because you're not getting the movement, you're not getting the nourishment, you're not getting the things that your body needs throughout the day. But 7 to 9 hours is optimal for an adult. We're talking about an adult. And finding that deep sleep, because that's when our body resets, right? That's where it's sort of put in the garage, and all the it's going in for service. Yeah. So you wake up feeling refreshed and new, and every day's a new day, and it's never too late to start something new and make it a new healthy habit. That's a really big plus if you want to add that to your routine. It can happen just by waking up in the morning, starting fresh, starting new. All right, number 3.
So we're on number 4 because exercise was number 2, then sleep. Now, number 4 is using food as medicine. And I would learn a lot. This is probably, I had to break this into 3 chapters because there was so much to learn about food as medicine. I had to look at the fact that I was eating a highly processed diet. I might have been eating more salad than other people and less junk food than other people, but, I wasn't doing well enough. Mm-hmm. So I increased my plant intake from about 5, and the average person gets about 2, maybe 3, and they think French fries is a healthy vegetable, and it's not. And I took it up to 10 to 13 gradually. And so I'm eliminating the processed foods, going to whole foods, things that you tell your clients every single day. And I'm going to low sugar. I even, cut back on dairy products. I don't want to say I went all organic, because some things I've learned don't need to be organic. Mm-hmm. The shell itself protects some things from the part that you eat inside from having those chemicals. But the things that are what we call the dirty dozen, where 15. They do have a high pesticide residue, I definitely eat organic. So I really cleaned up my diet. It took a while. I went through my pantry and threw all these chemically processed foods out that contained all these additives and preservatives. Mm-hmm. And I just ditched it all and started over. And, it's made a huge difference. People don't realize when you eat right, the difference it makes in your skin, in your health, in your immune system, in your countenance. So the diet was a big piece of the puzzle, but it was also serving to nourish my gut, which was, step 8 in my book, that you have to rebuild your gut and have a healthy gut lining, because flora. 70 to 80% of your immune cells are in this gut lining. And if you want to keep that immune system strong during the cancer journey through chemotherapy, research has clearly shown, eat high fiber whole foods, eat probiotic foods. Don't waste your calories on all this junk and processed food. I have come to the conclusion, Debbie, that our bodies were never made to eat processed food, and I ate it for 50-something years of my life.
Well, we were born in an era where it was, and it's big business. It is big industry to bagged food. Look at our commercials. We're being sold a really unhealthy bill of goods, and people are literally buying into it with their money and with their lives. They're eating that way. The way the media portrays unhealthy food. And, so I was in the television commercial industry for 30 years, and I produced TV commercials, and I made a big living on selling fast food. So I worked at McDonald's, Carl's Jr., Burger King, Taco Bell. A Taco Bell commercial put my daughter through college. So, because she was in it, when I produced, she was in it. But I gotta tell you, I knew all along, because I had this father that passed when he was 20, that this food was not the food I was feeding my kids. It was not the food that America should be eating. But this is where we were spending the most money in advertising to sell to the American public this cheap, fast, what looks scrumptious food, which is basically poison. There's been so many examples, Fast Food Nation and Super Size Me. If you just watch that documentary, he ate McDonald's every day for, I forgot what it was, like 40 days. And he gained something like 100 pounds, and but not only that, he was lethargic. He had brain fog, his skin, like you said, food can change your skin. It can change you from the outside in and the inside out. And he started craving the bad food because of the additives that they put on. Believe me, I know, because and this is, I know I'm a public show, but I know what McDonald's did to their food. So to make you want to keep eating those McDonald's French fries.
And then you're talking about high calories and low nutrients, low phytochemicals and antioxidants, what we need to
bad
fight.
Oils, really bad oils, not grass-fed meats or chickens or any, no free range out there. And so the source of your food matters as well. But that's sort of a secondary thing. At least if you can get those fruits and vegetables and grass-fed and free range in your body, it's a little better than things that are not, or that are chemically based. But it's amazing that food can make such. Food is medicine and medicine is food. Just as you said, it's the first thing I start with in all my talks. And once but you do have to, my education is such that what you researched is what I learned when I went back to school. So I could bring this to the general population. So, so, so important. What you put in your body, you're going to get out of, your body's going to respond to. Good or bad, it's going to respond to. And, I know you talk about eating the rainbow. You have something on your website where you talk about, here's what you get from all the orange vegetables. And you have like carrots and squashes and stuff. And here's what green vegetables can do for you. And I just think it's so neat to break it down like that, because that's a visual that tells you. And then there's so many wonderful ways to cook these things. You don't want to cook the hell out of them that the nutrients go away, but you do want to, cook them so they're delicious. There's so many things that you can add them to and be creative with, and great cookbooks out there that show you the way, I'm sure.
Well, we've learned a lazy way to get these superfoods into our body, and we do have a smoothie as a meal replacement once a day, and we get 6-7 superfoods in there.
Yeah.
And a lot of plants and a lot of greens and a lot of different things that are just our body's cup of blueberries every day. That's one of our rules now, because it prevents dementia, heart disease, and cuts off blood supply to cancer tumors. So when you learn these things, it makes you change the way that you eat.
And so when you adapted all this lifestyle changes, these positive changes, you mentioned that you felt better, that your skin was glowing. Did you notice any other differences besides, it sounds like you were always on the movement, because you said that you were doing the walk, the run, right even before your diagnosis. Do you notice just everything in life being better now that you're kind of got rid of the bad things in your lifestyle and the chemicals and the environment and stuff?
I've noticed my AC1 is better, going down. Blood pressure's going down a little bit. Just you're going to be healthier overall. Mm-hmm. When you do these things, and it's not just the diet, it's the hydration, it's the sleep, it's the exercise, and the diet. And then, some of the other things that I learned that are steps in the book relate to lowering your toxic load. Because remember, I told you I had no risk factors for the cancer I got and no genetics. And then I started finding, there are other risk factors that people don't know about. And I think they're going to soon be published by the American Cancer Society. But all these toxins that are getting into our system. Mm-hmm. You were talking about sweating when you exercise. I now sweat in a sauna because when you finish chemo, you have a high toxic load. But what the doctors found was through testing that I had a high toxic load before I was diagnosed with cancer, which contributed to my cancer diagnosis. Mm-hmm. They identified chemicals in my body, endocrine disrupting chemicals, and I had an estrogen-fed cancer. I had high levels of parabens, phthalates,
from your products, from the products in your environment. Yep. And we're all exposed to that. So,
and seeing is believing. Now, I have to be honest with you. My husband, when they tested me and found all these chemicals, I said, well, we're in the same home. We eat the same food. We're doing the same things. He's exposed to more chemicals than I am. Oh, what are his levels going to be? They were not as high as mine in any way, shape, or form.
well, that's the
So,
individual thing. That's where it's
right.
not a one size fits all deal.
His body is a better detoxer
Mm-hmm.
than mine. And so, he gets in the sauna once a week to my twice a week now. But when I was soon after the cancer journey, I was getting in 3 times a week to sweat out all that chemical residue that had built up in my body. Because if I don't want this cancer coming back, if I wait 7 years, maybe that chemo would have filtered out. But I didn't want to wait 7 years because that gives the cancer the opportunity to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have a high toxic load in your body, your immune system is suppressed. So that, of course, helped to cause my cancer to begin with. But when you see it on paper and you see these chemicals at high levels in the red zone in your body, seeing is believing. So I have several chapters in my book about how to detox, what's causing these high chemical loads, what things to avoid. It's just I feel like I deserve a degree from the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah. I mean, yes, you learned the hard way. Definitely. I went to school and I studied from a book, and I continue to research every single day. Like I said, I listen to podcasts. I buy every single book from every expert and researcher out there that's doing the latest and greatest on what we can do, because my whole thing is longevity with quality, to age young and be able to. I just turned 65 the other day, and for me it's kind of like I've got the energy of a 20-year-old, and there's no reason why everybody can't join me on that mission if they do what you did. Hopefully.
And these same 8 steps increase longevity. So it's like you're getting 5 different things for each one of these steps that you follow. It's helping your heart, your brain, your immune system, cancer prevention, and increasing longevity.
So fabulous for you that you wrote this book. It's so fabulous. You're helping so many people. Let's talk. We're winding down. So let's let the audience know how they can reach you, how they can get your book. And then if you have anything coming up, and then we'll talk about final words in the next 2 minutes.
Okay. I have a blog called Lifestyle Changes Beat Cancer, and I post weekly on that blog. That can be found at www.Ginny, Ginny, Brant, BRANT.com. Ways to buy the book are on there. You can buy it directly from me. You can go to Amazon.com, but the links are right there on that blog post. So JinnyBrant.com. And you can actually send me an email through that website, and I answer emails.
Fabulous. So you can be one-on-one with Ginny and be able to, find your journey with some help and inspiration from somebody who's been there, done that, did the research, had to take the hard road to it. But look, your mess was your mission, and look at all the people that you're helping. I'd like you to, I'm so appreciative to have had you join us today, and I'd like you to leave us with final thoughts, words of wisdom, anything you want to end to give to the audience.
I would say, don't look at your doctor to do everything. We are blessed to have doctors, and that's why people are living so long today. But look at what you can do to help your doctor to beat your cancer, because they will definitely have tools, and they're very valuable. But you also bring something to the table in prevention and in turning your lifestyle around to prevent that cancer or that disease from coming back. So don't just expect your doctor to do everything. Be proactive and do what you can do for your own lifestyle to enhance your own health, because it's largely, that is totally in your department. Your doctor cannot be your food Nazi and your lifestyle Nazi. They have enough to do.
Well said. Bravo. Thank you so much, Ginny, for joining me today. I really appreciate you giving some great information. I really encourage you to go to Ginny's website or go to Amazon and get her book. Tony, will you put the book back up on the screen one last time? Unleash Your God-Given Healing. And you can get that book and realize that you too can live a life of health and wellness just by following the steps and the wisdom that Ginny gained. And, that we all should. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to assume you're already or want to be on the healthy track. So why not give it that extra push? And I want to thank you again for joining me today, and keep going out and finding those conversations that connect to a healthier you.